you have asthma and you live in the Twin Cities, you're more likely to end up in the hospital than someone living in greater Minnesota.
That's according to the data from the Minnesota Department of Health. And as Delane Cleveland reports in today's Health Check, it's a trend state health officials hope to reverse.
9-year-old Riley Robinson of Plymouth is an avid swimmer.
First person, ready?
In fact, she goes to the Ridgedale YMCA 3 times a week, and she's able to do it despite having seasonal asthma.
Well, I feel fine with it. I'm just like a regular person.
Riley is one of 90,000 Minnesota children who live with the chronic lung disease.
We manage it together.
Her mom, JoAnn, says Riley was diagnosed when she was just a year old.
Ever since then, we have been doing our best to learn more about it and to help her cope with it.
But coping can depend on where you live.
We've seen a disparity in asthma hospitalization rates between children living in the Twin Cities metro and those living in greater Minnesota.
State health officials say the hospitalization rate is 50% higher in the Twin Cities than the rest of the state. However, they're not entirely sure of the reason for the disparity.
If there are differences in patterns in asthma care between the Twin Cities and greater Minnesota, that could be contributing, but it could also be due to differences in exposure to triggers.
Common triggers of asthma include pollen, dust mites, air pollution, and secondhand smoke. One of the health department's goals is to minimize triggers inside the homes of people who have asthma.
So for example, we can go into the home and provide air cleaners or mattress covers depending on the child's trigger.
Riley and her mom say they try their best to keep the house as clean as possible.
A lot of vacuuming to keep the dust mites and any allergens clear.
Every little bit helps to ensure that Riley doesn't wind up in the hospital.
She hasn't been hospitalized since she was a much younger child.
Meantime, Riley has a message for other kids out there who also live with asthma.
Don't get mad at yourself just because you have asthma. You're practically the same person as everybody else.
For Health Check, Delane Cleveland, 12 News.
The State Department of Health says that asthma hospitalization rates peak in the fall, so they encourage children to visit a healthcare provider before going back to school to ensure they have the proper medications.